Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Popular Stranger, and we are back with another gameplay video. We are officially kicking off here with episode number 1, our Minnesota Vikings defensive ebook slash guide that you guys have been asking for a while now. So here it is. A couple things to note before we jump on into it. This is episode number 1, but a couple days ago we dropped what I would call episode 0, and in that video I talked about quick adjustments, everything that you need to know about them, how to do them, and it's very important that you go back and watch that episode because everything we do from this point forward is going to involve doing quick adjustments and getting certain things done to set up your defense before your opponent snaps the ball. So again, very, very important to go through and watch that video and understand everything that you're going to need to be pressing. Now also, just like I did for the Lions offensive playbook series, which we will continue to work on, more episodes will be on the way very, very soon. I am going to create a playlist for this Vikings defensive guide, so that will be linked down below in the comment section as a pinned comment, and I will be sure to include that episode 0, the quick adjustment episode, as the first thing on the playlist. But here we are in episode number 1, and we're going to be talking about the formation that gives you the play mid-blitz. A lot of you are probably familiar with this. A lot of you probably run it against the computer to get easy stops and solo challenges and whatnot, but I actually like to use it to specifically stop trips tight end and most trips formations. So there's a lot of variations of trips formations that you're going to run into, but most commonly you're going to see trips tight end flex and trips tight end. So most commonly when you run into a trips formation, it's specifically going to be out of trips tight end flex or just trips tight end. There are a bunch of other variations of trips formations, but primarily the ones that I'm able to lock down pretty well with this 2-4 double mug mid blitz defense are the ones that there's like 3 receivers on one side, the lone tight end on the other, with the running back on the same side as the tight end. You will run into formations where the running back is on the same side of the trips formation, and that's where you see a lot of like RPO read flats and plays like that are a little bit more difficult to stop. Also, there are formations where like the tight end will be on the trip side and you'll have a wide receiver on the far side spread out a little wider. I don't often run this defense against those because those it's a little less compact and it's a little bit easier to beat this defense. And don't get me wrong, this defense isn't invincible, but I was really struggling against trips tight end and trips tight end flex, and most specifically, and you've probably gone against this formation a million times, this motion wide post, which funny enough is going to be in the Lions offensive guide in a future episode, because it is a really good play. But primarily this is a big play that you're going to go against, and I think I found for the most part the perfect defense against it. So we're going to be in 2-4 double mug. Here's a full list of all of the playbooks that you can find this in. We are in the Vikings defensive playbook, but as you can see, there is a very big list of playbooks that you can find this one in. And again, a lot of you probably run this against the computer, so you're fairly familiar with it. Now, when it comes to coach adjustments, and if you don't know how to do those, you're going to push in your right analog stick to bring them up. Primarily, this is what I do every single game. I will adjust certain things, and we'll talk about those adjustments in future episodes when we get to the dime 1-4 formation. But when I'm running this specific defense, we have to make sure that auto flip is off, auto alignment is to default. I pretty much always, every single game, put my option defense to conservative. I just find it's easier to stop quarterback options and just shut down the running back as if it was a normal running play. And then for my zone drops, I usually go 0 for the flats. For the curl flats, I'll go anywhere between 20 and 30. I'll just go 25 in this situation. And then for my hooks, these get adjusted a lot based on my opponent's tendency. But initially, just to start out the game, I put this at 5. So 0, 25, 5, conservative on the option defense. And again, very important. This is the most important thing, to make sure on this particular play you have auto alignment set to default, because when we get to dime 1-4, you're going to see that pretty much everything we run out of that is under base. So I do have to go back and forth. Unfortunately, if my opponent is switching their formation a lot during the game, I do have to, when I'm coming out in this defense, go to my coach adjustments, switch it to default. And again, you're going to do that by pressing R3 on your analog stick. When my opponent comes out in a different formation, I'll then have to go to base if I'm coming out in the dime 1-4 there. So just be aware of that. That's something you need to do. As far as like personnel goes, It's up to you if you want to make any changes, but all 6 of these guys on the edge are usually going to be rushing. So if you want to put guys who have a little bit of good pass coverage, you can. That's up to you. But as you can see currently on my MUT team, my defensive ends are going to be Nolan Smith and Amari Barno. Now we're getting to the point where pretty much everybody is really fast, but you want to have your fastest edge rusher on this end, and Nolan Smith is extremely fast for me with the Eagles team and his just base attributes. And then when it comes to the interior part of this defense, you have a defensive tackle here in Chris Jones at 95, and then Jalen Carter at 98. They are going to have inside stuff, so that's very helpful against the run, and you're not going to see too many people run against this defense. And then in the very, very middle, you're going to have your 2 linebackers or sub-linebackers. In this situation, for me, it's Kyle Hamilton, normally a strong safety, but we have him as sub-linebacker, and then we have Brian Urlacher. You do want to have these guys to have really good or at least decent man coverage, because we are going to be putting them in man coverage situations. So something anywhere from like maybe 85 and up would be ideal. Now, with that being said, Brian Urlacher's man coverage is only 80. I know Kyle Hamilton's is in like the mid 90s, so he's good to go. But for the most part, Urlacher is really just going to be responsible for covering a running back. So even at an 80-man coverage, he's been fine in this situation. This is going to be pretty much a 100% man coverage defense outside of your strong safety. So if you can get a deep zone KO or a mid zone KO or both on your strong safety, that would be ideal. For the rest of your cornerbacks, it's really up to you. You're going to want zone knockouts because we're going to play zone coverage in the dime 1-4 there, but we just have our 2 regular cornerbacks. Our slot cornerback here, number 20, is going to be Jalen Ramsey, and then our free safety currently is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. So the play is mid blitz, as you can see, and maybe have noticed, I've called this play 5,429 times. So that's also going to include every time that I call it against the computer, but we only allow 5.5 yards per play on this one. So let's go ahead and select it. Now, the really quick setup that I'm going to do is, number 1, we want to be using our free safety, which is going to be Brian Thomas. Remember, you're going to need to watch that quick adjustments video, because everything from here, we are using quick adjustments. Because this is the guy we use, we don't ever want to have to leave this guy, but we still need to make adjustments to three people, potentially 4 every play. And, you know, trying to go over here to move this guy and then this guy and then this guy, that's too much work. You're going to get quick snap. You're going to get beat downfield. So first thing I always do, and I will be honest, when people run this flipped, meaning that the tight end is on the left of screen and the trips are on the right-hand side of the screen, it sometimes throws me off. We'll show you what you need to do in that situation. It's just a couple different buttons, but same idea. But first thing I do, anytime I see them come out in trips tight end flex or trips tight end, I come out in this formation immediately. I'm tapping right on my D-pad 2 different times to select my linebackers. The first one I'm going to select is Kyle Hamilton, so we're going to hit X on PlayStation, A on Xbox, and then we're going to put him in man coverage, which means I'm going to press up on the right analog stick, and the guy that he's going to go cover is going to be the tight end, which is going to be Vernon Davis. So we need to select X to select Vernon Davis. That would be A on Xbox. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure that Brian Urlacher is covering the running back, because that table route will kill you, sometimes wheel routes as well. So again, double tapping on our D-pad to the right 2 different times to bring up our quick adjustments. This time we're going to select square on PlayStation or X on Xbox for Brian Urlacher, up on the right analog stick to put him in man coverage, and then we're going to press R1 on PlayStation right bumper on Xbox to cover the running back. In this situation, it's Najee Harris. So this is how it looks so far. Next thing I'm going to do is put that that safety, which is Isaiah Simmons. We're going to put him on a purple route to cover the corner route. Now, for quick adjustments to manipulate any of your secondary, instead of pushing right on your D-pad 2 times, we're going to have to press triangle or Y on the Xbox controller 2 different times. We're going to select the defender that we want to change. In this situation, Isaiah Simmons is going to be circle on PlayStation. That would be A on Xbox. And we're going to push our left analog stick to the right to put him on a curl flat, and that's going to look like this. Again, I just refer to it as a purple zone. And then finally, the last thing we're going to do is select X on PlayStation, A on Xbox for the guy that we are using right now, which is Brian Thomas Jr., and we're going to push up on our left analog stick to put him in a deep half. Now, sometimes I will cheat down here just a little bit, and before we snap the ball, because again, this is going to be against a very specific defense or offense. Right now, this is the play that we are anticipating happening. Devontae Smith is going to motion and kind of run a wheel route up the field. field. A streak on the left-hand side is usually going to be covered. No worries there as long as you're not press covering. The post route from Vernon Davis going up and then to the left, that's a tough one, but for the most part, because Kyle Hamilton is already cheating inside with his man coverage, because remember, he's responsible now for Vernon Davis, he gets a nice little head start on that route, and really, you're just worried about that in-breaking zig route there, the return route. You're going to have to kind of cheat up to think or make your opponent think you're taking away the post and then crash down to take away the zig. And I've gotten a lot of user picks doing that, a lot of pick sixes. Now there's going to be variations and there's ways to beat this. Again, it's not a bulletproof defense. One of the main things you have to be concerned about is if your opponent is going to streak the tight end. Now we're a little bit in trouble here because this area of the field is going to be open if Vernon Davis just runs right up the field. And again, you're going to have to pay attention to that. Your user's going to have to be fairly good. And we'll talk about the variations that you're probably going to run into, but for the most part, this play is run stock and then one other way. So I'm just going to snap it. I'm not actually going to throw the ball because we're doing this with two different controllers. But once this ball is snapped and you see the motion, I kind of cheat down. Again, I'm going to fake like I'm covering this guy, and I'm going to run down here and then cover the zig. Let's run it again. I want you to pay attention to Vernon Davis and that tight end. Again, he's usually pretty covered. Now, if he gets down the field and runs that route fully, he's probably eventually going to get open, but because we have, two really good edge rushers on the outside and two really good interior guys here, the pressure typically gets home, specifically the defensive end on the right of your screen, which in this case is going to be Nolan Smith. I've gotten a million trillion sacks with him just off of this formation because of his speed, and in order to stop this, people are typically either going to have to block their running back or motion in their tight end to block him, and then that's going to take away one route that they have available to throw. Also, one really cool thing about this coverage is that you will find people start to block the running back, and then once they do, the person that's responsible for the running back, which is going to be Brian Urlacher, by default, even though he's in man coverage right here, he's going to kind of drop back and literally just play the middle of the field, and that's going to leave him there to cover that in-breaking zig route once it gets across the field over here. So let's go ahead and run this play and show you what it looks like, and just pay attention to Brian Urlacher when it's snapped with the running back now blocking instead of going out on that route. Brian Urlacher, again, look how he's just covering the middle there. So now we can go ahead and take away this post route manually, and by the time that zig route gets all the way across the field, Urlacher's sitting there waiting for it, and the pass rush should get home. Now, another variation that a lot of people run with this one is instead of that motion wheel route with Devontae Smith, they will put him on a slant route, and this one is a little bit more difficult to cover, definitely for sure, but this is where our curl flat comes into play. He's typically going to take that away. Now, if the opponent hits that slant, in between the hash marks or before it crosses the right hash mark, usually that's going to be the sweet spot, and we're hoping that our pass rush is going to get there in time. And I didn't really mention it in the beginning of the video, but the main reason I'm putting that purple route or that curl flat there is to protect from a corner route from the tight end, because a lot of times when people come out in this trips tight end, outside of the play that we're going against right now, they like to run a level sail where there's basically a table route from the running back, a corner route going up into to the right from the tight end, and then there's a different variation of different things that the people on the left would do, the three receivers on the left, but that's kind of protecting us from the tight end corner route as well. But I'm going to go ahead and snap the ball with the slant now instead of the motion, and again, I'm not going to be able to throw the ball here because I'm doing two controllers and I want to show you what you're trying to cover, but this time I'm basically going to start cheating towards the inside to distract him or stop him from throwing that slant in the sweet spot here, hoping that the pass rush gets there. Once he crosses this hash mark over here, then hopefully, Isaiah Simmons is going to be taking it away, and then it's our job to cheat back here to either worry about the post from Vernon Davis or to cheat back down here to cover that in-breaking zig route. So again, we snap the ball, we kind of cheat over here, we fade back, and then we come down here, and as you can see, the pass rush is getting home in time. You just have to be quick enough with your user and anticipate what your opponent's going to run. The good thing is this is a super meta formation, and the reason I run this defense is because I know most of the time when people come out in this formation, this is the exact play that they're running, and that's the way that I take it away. Now, for the most part, even though there's not really any help when Devontae Smith motions and runs that wheel by default, the man that stays with him and runs with him, he covers it pretty well. There are some situations where you're just simply going to get beat, and unfortunately it's going to happen from time to time. But if your opponent is consistently throwing it to that motion wheel route from Devontae Smith, instead of putting your strong safety and Isaiah Simmons in that purple route, which again is going to be this, you're going to go double tap on your triangle button or Y on Xbox, circle to select your strong safety, in this case Isaiah Simmons, and that would be A on Xbox, and instead you're going to push up on the left analog stick to put him in a deep half. This is going to cover that wheel route if you're consistently getting beat by it. For the most part, like I said, the man coverage, the guy that runs with that motion receiver, covers it very well. You do want to have some high man coverage guys on your team. For the most part, at this point in the year, everybody has really good man coverage in the secondary. And if your opponent does kind of figure out that you're taking away what we think they're running, again, they're going to probably put Vernon Davis here on a streak. Best way to protect that. And then you can also, kind of keep in mind that they're going to end up doing this as well. This is where this defense can get beat. So if you run into somebody doing this, this is a pretty good setup for this. You're probably going to need to block your running back, but this definitely takes things or makes things a little bit more complicated to stop. So I do want to show you the weaknesses in this defense, because like I said a few times now, this is not bulletproof. It's not unstoppable. It can certainly be beat, but I've used this formation to really do a great job on trips over the last 2 months, because that was one that I was just really struggling against. Now, if you do find that they're streaking their tight end, again, another thing that you can do is double tap triangle or Y, circle for your strong safety, and you're going to push left on your left analog stick to put him on an inside third. This is going to take away the streak, but you are going to leave that right side of the field wide open. So if your opponent starts running a post route, or again, that slant route comes across with Devontae Smith, now you either have to take it away or hope that the defensive line specifically, is going to get there in time. So if we snap the ball, and I forgot to cover the running back there, in this specific formation, we are now just finding ourselves cheating from left over to right. Good news is we don't really ever see John Ross beat us on that streak. Maybe it's because I have a good cornerback there and Patrick Peterson, and having knockout abilities helps, but the fastest receiver is usually not outrunning the fastest cornerback on my team. And with that all being said, just don't press so you can have that cushion. Now, if they run an out route over here, that might be something that will beat me, but we're just talking about defending the most popular plays here, and this is exactly what you're going to see. So in this situation, again, circle would have beat me there because I cheated back to cover the middle and the pass rush just didn't get home. It's going to be a bend but don't break defense sometimes as well, but overall, this is how I stopped that specific formation. So earlier I mentioned it. Another thing that you're going to see a lot of is something like level sail here, and that's the main reason why I put that hook curl over there, or that curl flat, I'm sorry, to cover the corner route. It's also why we man coverage the running back, because if he's uncovered, they're going to take that every single time, and that's going to eat up a lot of yards there. Luckily, our second middle linebacker, the one over to the left there, is usually going to get into position very quickly to cover. So if you're running into a level sail here, again, I'm just setting up the defense really quickly here. If we go ahead and snap the ball and we're familiar with this play and know that it's on the way because of our opponent's tendencies, we're just going to kind of, oops, I switch sticked off of the wrong guy there, but with our user, we're just going to cheat to the inside. Now, a big problem can happen when your opponent starts putting that inside trips receiver on a corner route. This is going to fry man coverage. I'll just be absolutely honest with you there. So if we're looking at something like this, we're still going to set up our defense the same way, but there's one of two ways that we're going to stop it. Number one, probably the easier way, is we're going to have to put Brian Thomas Jr. in a curl flat as well to protect the other side, but that leaves the middle of the field wide open. And to put him in a curl flat, if you're already selected on him, you can just hit X on PlayStation, A on Xbox, and then push right on your left analog stick, and boom, just like that. Obviously, you can quick adjust as well by double tapping triangle or Y, selecting L1 or left bumper on Xbox, and then pushing right on the left analog stick, but that's more button presses. So if we're selected on this guy already, we can do that. But because of that, then I'm going to have to come down here and use our Brian Urlacher. So if they snap the ball, and this is certainly a tell, a lot of people have identifier now, so they know who you're using, but if we are doing this, I have to cheat over here to make sure I'm covering the running back, whether it's a wheel route, a table route. Good news is, like I said earlier, if the blitz is getting home, if the pass rush is getting home, they're going to start blocking, and then so I'm either going to have to chase the running back if he goes out for a route. If he doesn't, I have to control the middle of the field, and I might even have to drop back pretty far because this big gap is going to be there because both of our safeties are playing the outside. But this is going to be one way to take away those corner routes. I was late getting to that table route there, so that probably would have been open, but you probably saw, and you can rewind the video, both of the corner routes were taken care of. Now, the other way that you can take away a corner route, but this one's going to involve a little bit more skill, is simply just switch sticking. To do that, you're going to push left or right on your right analog stick. In the middle of a play, it's going to switch to the nearest defender. Because of that, I do like to cheat inside a little bit down more in between the hash marks, so when the play is snapped and I do need to switch stick, if I do need to do it, I'm kind of close to Cooper DeJean here, who's going to be the player that I'm covering or switch sticking over to because he's covering Devontae Smith on that corner route on the left-hand side. A huge part of this defense, though, is hoping that that pass rush gets in home in time before that route gets open. But if we do snap the ball here, I'm going to cheat outside, and then I'm switch sticking by pressing kind of to the left and up on my left analog stick, my right analog stick, kind of like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there if you're putting the controller, the analog stick, 2 o'clock. But you can see I was able to switch stick over to Cooper DeJean and be able to cover that outside route before it beat me and got home. If I don't do that, like I said, if I go ahead and snap the ball here and I don't switch stick over, look how open circle is there. They would have an easy touchdown. So that's mostly it. Again, I can't say it enough. This defense is not going to be bulletproof, but for the most part, that's how I'm going to take away a lot of trips formations and also just a lot of tendencies as far as like trips go. People just like the same route combinations in Madden. It's a copycat game and league in the NFL, right? So a lot of the things that you're going to see opponent do, everybody's going to do it. If you run into something like trip slot, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, where you have a trips on one side, but the tight ends on the trip side, running back and a lone receiver on the other, it's going to be somewhat the same principles. Instead, your right linebacker, which is Kyle Hamilton in this situation, he's going to cover the tight end. So again, double tap right on your right D-pad to select that defender, X or whatever button it is to select him. And then we're going to push up on our right analog stick to put him in man coverage, and X to cover Vernon Davis. Same thing with the left linebacker, but we're going to have him cover Najee Harris, the running back here. We're going to make sure we're in a zone here. And then finally, we're going to put L1 or our strong safety over here on that curl flat by pushing right on our left analog stick. So he's still guarding the corner route because that middle trips tight end or receiver 23 Devin Hester could be running a corner route there. Definitely Vernon Davis could be. Our responsibility here is still to take away the middle of the field. We have very good confidence that Brian Urlacher is going to take away the running back. For the most part, Kyle Hamilton's going to take away Vernon Davis. Now again, if they run a streak straight up the field there with Vernon Davis, he is going to get a touchdown. It's just quite simple there. This is where the chess match comes into play. And if it is that situation, that's where you're either going to want to put your safety in a deep zone here, or you're going to want to put your safety in an inside third to cover that middle of the field. But now you have to be worried about the corner route there. So if they have a good, strategy where they're going to put Hester on a corner and Vernon Davis on a streak, that's where we're just going to have to change up our defense and not run this one. And that's where dime 1-4 is going to come into play. So there are ways to beat it, but that's how I cover, the other kind of various trips formations that you're going to see. So that's it for episode number 1. Again, we're going to focus on a lot of other things, primarily dime 1-4, a cover 4 coverage defense, a cover 4 blitz, and then a lot of man coverage stuff, because my man coverage for the most part is my favorite type of defense to run. I've been doing it for years and years and years, and we're going to have to do a lot of quick adjusting on those. So we'll be back with more episodes very soon and throughout the next, I'd say, 7 to 10 days to finish up this one. And you can also expect more stuff coming on the offensive side with the Lions playbook. Hope this one helped. If you're struggling against trips formations, thank you for watching. My name is Popular Stranger. I'm out. Peace.